X's top 5 underrated players going into 2022. My number 5 most underrated player going into 2022 is Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo is viewed as 2 different players depending upon who you talk to. 1, an elite defender who has elite plate discipline and ridiculous power, of course. Or 2, a bad hitter because he hits below 200. Bruh, let's break this down though. Before the All-Star break, Gallo had a 144 weighted runs created plus. That's 44% above league average, but struggled a bit once he got to New York. Ultimately, I believe he became a little too selective at the plate, and the change in environment and expectations allowed for unwarranted pressure. But even after that tough stretch, still he finished with a 123 weighted runs created plus while playing elite right field. My man is still a top 25 to 30 player, and I expect to see something much closer to the Texas Gallo than New York Gallo next season. My number 4 most underrated player going into 2022 is Brooks Raley. I played against this dude in Korea before he made his comeback to the MLB, so I have faced his nastiness from the right side, but he's that much tougher against lefties. Brooks is very underrated in his own right, and I think a great way to sum it up is that the Rays gave him $5.5 million as a relief pitcher, and this really shows they feel confident about his ability to come out of that pen and throw up zeros. Brooks pitched to a 4.78 ERA last season, but struck out 31.7% of batters faced with a 2.91 SIERA. Great numbers. Raley was great with Houston, but it's almost scary to think about how much potential he has and how good the Rays are at unlocking it. My number 3 most underrated player going into 2022 somewhat emerged as a force to be reckoned with on the biggest stage last year, Kyle Tucker. My dude played extremely well last season, and at age 24, he's only gonna get better. Recognition-wise, he gets lost in an extremely deep Astros lineup, but that doesn't take away from his 30 homers and OPS of 917. The power production and defense is there, and he held his own in the postseason with a 541 slug and an 874 OPS. I love this dude's approach at the plate, and he uses the whole field with the best of them. Don't take my word for it, check out his spray chart. Keep your eye out for KT next year. He's about to have a monster season. My number 2 most underrated player going into 2022 is truly a player that deserves more national recognition. I'm talking about quite possibly the most productive hitter on the Tampa Bay Rays, Brandon Lowe. Like, this dude was 1 homer shy of 40, and let's not forget he plays in the AL East. But I think that plays into why he got lost in the shuffle a little bit, because the division has so many good power hitters. He plays a solid second base, but this is a guy who had a 137 weighted runs created plus, 37 above league average, and a 5.2 Fangraphs WAR last season. Plus, he has incredible position versatility. He's one of the reasons why the Rays put up so many runs. Plain and simple, you have to have a thumper to drive guys in and create protection around guys like Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena. Lowe is that dude. He's up there potentially as a top 30 player. And my number 1 underrated guy going into 2022 has to be Aaron Nola. I know Nola took a backseat to Zach Wheeler last season, and from the outside didn't seem to perform like the Nola we've seen dominate in the past. But this is a guy who I think is a top 10 pitcher going into 2022. His ERA was heavily inflated last year due to some poor luck, bad defense behind him, and occasionally some poor fastball placement. However, the stuff is there, and he has the chance to be elite moving forward. But when you look at some of the peripherals and underlying metrics, you can see why I can expect him to return back to form. He had a 3.7 expected FIP, 29.8 strikeout percentage, 5.2 walk percentage, and a 3.26 SIERA. All of these numbers show he has elite stuff when you take the defense out of the equation. Examine the extraordinary and let me know what you think in the comments.